Thank you. Good morning. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so thanks. I'm here to talk about how COVID-19 has affected Asian American Pacific Islander or API small business owners. This truly is a work in progress on what we're working on. So why API? And you have already heard a lot of the research that's being done on discrimination against Asians. APIs are the fastest growing ethnic group in the country and are expected to double in size over the next 40 years, becoming more than 9% of the population in 2060. So in May of 2019, the president issued an executive order on economic empowerment of APIs. That executive order established the President's Advisory Commission on API to provide recommendations to the president. There were 9 priorities in the executive order, one of which was to work to advance relevant evidence-based research, data collection and analysis for API populations, subpopulations, and businesses. So RLA is helping the commission prepare its 2020 report to the president. As part of the effort, we're reviewing existing survey data, and that's what led us to explore the UAS COVID-19 data. We were also asked to conduct a short survey of API small business owners. So I took the title of the conference, Work in Progress, very literally. We are in the process of designing this survey and have a draft instrument. And we wanted to take this opportunity to get feedback from all of you on what we've learned, based on what we've learned to date, and also entertain perhaps a few suggestions we have about the variables, since there's so many UAS people on this in this conference. Turning now to the survey, I'm calling it the PAC API survey for the President's Advisory Commission on API. We hope to finish this survey at the end of the year. We aim to capture 1,000 API small business owners. And because the survey is only of API small business owners, we are trying to compare the results to other existing surveys. And that's why we focused on the Census Bureau Small Business Pulse Survey and the UAS COVID-19 study. Our survey attempts to cover 3 topic areas. And again, it's a very short survey. It's meant to be about 10 minutes, 25 questions tops. The first area of interest to the commission is the business impact of COVID-19, and that's where a lot of the Census Bureau questions come in. Unfortunately, that survey does not have the demographic data on the small business owners, but my understanding is that the Census Bureau is going to try to link with that data from their census other surveys. The second area of interest is the API service and volunteerism in the era of COVID-19. During COVID-19, a high proportion of APIs have been working in high contact essential roles. So we plan to ask if the business provides essential critical infrastructure workers and if they have donated goods and services since March of 2020. This is a way to try to quantify perhaps some of the positive contributions of API small business owners. And then lastly is the impact of COVID-19 on individuals. As we've already heard, there's been reported discrimination and has experienced against APIs because of the perception that COVID-19 originated from China. We're able to look at this variable in the UAS data, as well as focusing on some of these other ones, whether you've been tested for COVID, the likelihood of getting the vaccine, and preemptive behaviors. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time, because I only have 3 minutes left, to talk about the actual findings from some of our analyses that my team and I have done. But what I want to highlight is that within the API population, there's a lot of heterogeneity, and the UAS does allow us to separate Asian Americans from Pacific Islanders, and they behave very differently. For example, with respect to vaccine confidence, Asian Americans are very much more confident about getting the vaccine if it's developed, whereas Pacific Islanders are not. And many of the selected COVID-19 preemptive behaviors, such as avoiding public gatherings, avoiding restaurant dining, and working and studying from home, Asian Americans are much more compliant on those issues than Pacific Islanders and the other racial groups. So one of the suggestions that I would make is, if it'd be great if UAS could pull out the Asians rather than lump them with the others, and their wonderful charts that they have on their website. So it would save me from having to find a way to calculate those numbers. So don't think that's a difficult thing to do. And I think you have the numbers to do it, to justify that. Now you just have white, Black, other, and Hispanic. So I'd really like to see white, Black, Asian, and Hispanic. And then I wanted to just spend the last few minutes talking about a couple of the variables. We've already heard Stephen talk about the perceived discrimination variable. We have plotted it through the 7 waves, and you see that the Asians have come down over time. They actually started out highest at the beginning near the pandemic and has declined over time. Since about mid-September, the Pacific Islanders were significantly more likely than Asians to perceive COVID-related discrimination. We're not quite sure what's driving that, but I wanted to focus on the question. So in the UAS, this is the main question about discrimination, and you can read it on your own. And then the second the box on the bottom has the question that was asked about whether you think this is happening because of coronavirus. So to plot this chart, we basically combined all 4 of those elements. And if you had any of these 4, then we would count you as having experienced COVID-related discrimination. So my suggestion, because we are short on time in our survey and would like to condense this and make it easier to code, we were thinking to combine all 4 of those scenarios and basically ask if any of these things happen to you, because in the end, we're going to sum them all up in the presentation of the results. If the answer is yes, then ask how often of these combined events did this happen, and then ask, did this happen because you think you might have people thought you had the coronavirus? So I would love to get some feedback on if you think this question loses too much, and we don't have time, we're not going to ask, and why do you think you experienced this? Is it because of your age, your race, your ethnicity? I'm skipping that question, and I'd love to know if that's a huge skip and you don't want, there's some reason we can't. So that's one question for consideration. And the second one was the vaccine confidence. So this was a question that's asked by the UAS: how likely are you to get vaccinated once a vaccine is available? We're proposing that once you ask this question, anybody who responded less than somewhat likely, we would ask, if a credible public health official said the vaccine is safe and effective, how likely would you be to get vaccinated? And what you see here in this chart is data showing that the likelihood or vaccine confidence has gone down for everybody over the last few waves. And Asian Americans are significantly higher in the likelihood of getting the vaccine than any of the other racial ethnic groups. And they are also significantly higher than Pacific Islanders among the APIs. So those are my 2 food for thought. And I want to thank my team, Dana Glei, who's sitting in ready to answer all the difficult methodological questions, and Ying for reviewing our information before we present it, and my analysts, Sabira and Shadia Sanders. So thank you.